Hello everyone, and welcome to the podcast. Today we are speaking with Mr. Sidharth Bishnoi, founder of Chaudhary Bhajan Lal Foundation, an organization dedicated to healthcare, education and community welfare. Thank you for joining us, Sidharth. So to begin with, tell us about your vision behind Chaudhary Bhajan Lal Foundation, please.
Sure. I started this foundation in memory of my late grandfather, Chaudhary Bhajan Lal ji, and he's dedicated his entire life to public service. And although he was a politician, he was the chief minister of Haryana. He served as the union minister for agriculture at a point. But when I was growing up, to me he was just my grandfather. And what struck me the most about him was he wanted every single waking second to be spent with the people. He would shave in front of the people. He would eat with the people, and he really didn't care if somebody was going to vote for him or not. No matter who came into his office, his first words were always, "मेरे लायक कोई सेवा बताइए." And I think what better way to carry forward his legacy than to carry forward that dedication to service and that dedication to making the lives of everyone better in whatever way you can. That was the thought behind starting this foundation. And when we started it, it was. The biggest question we had is what do we focus on, because as you know, there's a lot of things that are in requirement for improvement, I would say, in our country, and we wanted to work on things where we could make the most impact and where the impact would compound over the years and grow bigger and bigger, which is why we settled on 3 pillars at the end. So the first one of them is education, the second one is empowerment, and then the third is environment, and they all have a reason, and I can go into that if you want to for each of them.
I don't think there's a person in Haryana who hasn't heard of Chaudhary Bhajan Lal, so those must be some really big shoes to fill in.
Yeah, of course, and I think those shoes are impossible to fill.
Yeah.
So I tend to not even try. Let's take other shoes and work in our own way and do what we can.
Yeah. New shoes are always better. Better soles. So you talked about healthcare. So healthcare is one of the foundation's key pillars, as you said. So what kind of initiatives are you undertaking in the sector? What are your plans for the future when it comes to healthcare?
Yeah, I think India is today living in a dual healthcare system.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you're privileged, if you have money, you can get some of the best healthcare in the world.
Yeah.
You have the finest doctors in the country. You have all the facilities you would need. And you will get time from the doctors, you will get your own room, you will get somebody looking after you 24/7, which is something you may not be able to get even in a developed country.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for the vast majority of Indians, there is a huge gap between what they need and what is actually available. Trying to get an appointment in a government hospital, everybody knows how difficult that is. Everybody knows how much time you would even get with a doctor. And that's not the doctor's fault, it's because there's one doctor to thousands and thousands of patients. And ideally, healthcare starts in school. It starts with education, it starts with teaching kids about sanitation, it starts with teaching kids about good healthcare practices and with vaccinations. So one of the things we did was, actually go to schools and teach kids about good sanitary practices, tell them about the benefits of getting vaccinated, tell them to remind their parents if they haven't that you need to get these vaccinations done by these, and try and dispel a lot of the myths that are prevalent around healthcare in India. One of the disadvantages or drawbacks of social media has been that it's so easy to disseminate information and a lot of it is false. And if one person says something false, it takes 5 people to negate it and actually counter it with facts. And by that time, that person has said 3 more things. But we do what we can in that sense. So we try to start healthcare awareness early in the schools that we work with. We do blood donation drives, so we're doing a pretty big one on the 4th of June on my grandfather's Punyatithi. So that is an initiative that we try to do something for that every year. And sometimes it's a blood drive, sometimes it's an eye checkup or a hearing checkup. These are the main things we're working on the healthcare pillar.
Okay. And education is really important, and I believe it's one of the pillars. Empowerment. comes in education, right? So the foundation is also supporting students through scholarships, I believe. So why is education such an important area for the whole foundation?
Yeah, I think that to me is probably the most important pillar, because I think if you give somebody a good education, they don't need anything else, and that's something that nobody can take away from you, right? Like if somebody is educated and they have skills that are useful in the real world, they can make a living, they can run their life, and they can be, if they can be happy regardless of what else is happening around them. And the scholarship is one way to do that. It's really unfortunate that somebody smart and somebody capable is not able to get the education they deserve because of a lack of funds. So we try to address that, and that's the most direct way to do it. But other than that, there's a bunch of other initiatives that we have done to support the education pillar as well. One thing that my wife actually spearheaded pretty early on as part of the foundation was setting up self-help groups for rural women. So we went to several villages, we set up these self-help groups, and we also taught these women vocational skills. So they could learn vocational skills which let them earn a little bit of money on the side, and it also built a community for these women which let them sort of share other issues of their lives with each other, and that has a lot of like sort of soft power that you may not get in even formal education. And that was so successful that she still gets messages from women saying, yeah, I bought a sari because of the money that I earned from the classes that you made me do. And it's always great when you see an impact like that. You are actually directly impacting somebody's life by making their education better, and that's why it's such an important pillar for us. And to be honest, I was pretty, before we did a tour of the villages as part of the foundation, you always know that there are some issues with the Indian government education system, but it may not be apparent how much of an issue it really is. And I'll give you an example. I was shocked when I first saw this. We were in this village, went to a rural school, and they said that the government has given us a grant for computer classes. So, we have a state-of-the-art computer room now, and there was a computer room, and there were computers there, but nobody was using it. And we asked the teacher, why is nobody using all these computers? And the reason was there was no budget for an operating system or any of the programs to actually teach the kids on the computer, which is a small expense compared to the expense of all the other things that have been done. But because that wasn't done for whatever reason, I don't want to get into why.
So you have the thali, but there's no food in it.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, and all that money has now been wasted, with that. And in other schools, you might see computer classes being taught fully on pen and paper. It's write an Excel formula and you're literally just writing it out on a piece of paper. It's a photo of what a screen would have looked like, which is, it's better than nothing at all, I guess. But on one hand, we expect India to be at the forefront of innovation or enter the digital age, or you expect somebody to, go into work and be proficient on the job day one. And on the other hand, we are not even giving them the basic literary sort of digital skills to survive in the modern world.
So again, there's a gap. The kids who can spend a lot on tuition fees, they get it all, but the people who are studying in government schools, they have to make do with pen and paper.
Yeah, and even if you take coding or computers as an example, right? Like if you ask any of your friends who are coders today, there will be a few, but there will be very few who actually learned coding formally in a class, and then that's how they sort of got started. A lot of the people will just tell you stories of, I had a computer at home, or my dad had a computer, someone had one, I would just be playing around, or like this game wasn't working, I was trying to fix it, I was building a mod, or I just learned this language because it was pretty fun. And then that's how they got started on their journey. And that's what happens all the time, right? Like if you have a tabla in the house, the kid will be curious, he'll play with it, and he might get interested in music. And that's a way more organic way to get them interested in things, and that's a way more sustainable way of building your skills. And that is a very big challenge, because it is, with the resources that we have as a country, it's not practical to have everybody have computers or have everybody given the same opportunities. But what we can strive for is at least give people the basic opportunities that they deserve, even if it is not the same for the entire country.
Something's better than nothing. Now that we're talking about education, my next question, I hope it's not too political, but do you genuinely feel that education system in India works? Because I believe that the existence of tuition classes like Alan or Akash, their existence alone tells us that education, like schools, they're failing us, because if the schools were doing their job correctly, we wouldn't need extra classes for the kids. They would have it all in their classes.
This is how I love this question. There's so much to think about here. So, I think one aspect of this is I personally knew a lot of friends from my school, and I'm sure everybody listening can think of a few examples as well, who are actually pretty good. They were getting good marks, they were doing well in their studies, they were paying attention in class, they didn't need any extra classes, but they went to extra classes anyway. Because their parents forced them, or their parents had FOMO, that like, oh, that kid's going, and my kid's going to be left behind. We tend to see education like a competition in India. Like, what's your rank in the class? Like, it doesn't matter if you got 95% or whatever, like, what did everybody else get? And I think, as parents also, it is very easy to feel guilty. Even if your kid does well, you will always think, oh, maybe if I had sent him to this class, he would have done a little bit better. And I don't blame the parents for that, because the way competition works in India, if you want to get into the best colleges, if you want to get into IAS or get the best jobs, it's always about beating everybody else and being the absolute best at whatever it is, whatever exam you're trying to give. And I think that's what these classes are tailoring to. But I don't think that's education, right? Education is not, do you remember all the formulas of trigonometry? Education goes a lot beyond that. And I think that is something that we maybe have not fully grasped as a society. If you take an engineering graduate in India as an example, because that's what I studied, I did mechanical engineering, right? A lot of people will be able to tell you all the formulas for how an engine works off by heart, because they've memorized it, they've studied it, and you might think, oh wow, like this is a great engineering student. But ask them to actually build an engine, and how many of them can do it? Like, how many of them can even tell you what's wrong with an engine that's not working? A mechanic might be able to tell you, but like, if you can't design an engine, like, are you a mechanical engineer? If it's one thing drawing a circuit, there's another thing actually understanding it and being able to apply it in the real world. Because when you are building something in the real world, whether it's a business or whether you're working in a job, that's what you actually need. And in an ideal world, the education we get in our school and our college helps us either to get a good job or do well in that job, or to build a business for ourselves. Unfortunately, I don't think that's what education does. Not just in India, across the world, I don't think that's the goal of education today. I think it should be, but we are a long way off. And then, I said I love this question. I can talk about this forever. But the other aspect of that is there is also a case of a lot of schools just being under so much stress. You have a teacher with 50 kids sometimes even more. You have a lot of curriculum to cover under a very short period of time. Half the curriculum is irrelevant in a lot of cases. Some of that is politically motivated. We can get into that if you want. I can go on another hour-long rant about that. But you can't blame the teachers either. Like, if I was teaching a class, I can't focus and give every child the individual attention they need if there's 30, 40, 50 kids in the class. And then, what choice do the parents have as well, and what choice do the kids have as well? It just becomes a vicious circle where the kids don't get attention, so now they get to classes, so then now some kids are going to classes, so they don't pay attention even more. And now the atmosphere of the class is bad, so the teacher's having an even worse time trying to teach it. And at some point, it's so easy for everybody to just get jaded with the system and say, every person for themselves, and let's do this all by ourselves. So to solve this, it requires a structural change. This is not something that can be done with a band-aid or with more budget.
So if you had a magic wand, one change that you think would fix this, I don't think a simple change in the curriculum is a whole change, a whole fix for the entire issue.
No, not at all.
It has to do with the psyche of the parents, the children.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, if the kid doesn't want to study, what can you do?
Let me be honest with you, mate. I never wanted to study. What kid wants to study? But that doesn't mean I didn't do well. And I think the difference is, recognizing what your kid is good at and encouraging that, and just not putting all that pressure. Because kids don't know what happens if I don't do well, right? Nothing, like, to be honest, like, when I was in class 9, I barely passed my maths exam. Like, literally barely passed, I could have failed. And in my boards, I got 98%. So what was the difference? There were two differences, right? Number one, I had an excellent teacher in my last year. And that made me interested in the subject all over again. So like, I learned concepts that I should have learned 4 years ago because I was suddenly having fun studying for this. And then the second factor was, I had already gotten admission in a different school in class 11. So my 10th marks kind of didn't matter. And that took all the pressure off of me. So I was just, reading the things, enjoying it and having a good time. So I think, we underestimate how important it is to have fun. And private, like, apps have understood this, right? If you try to learn a language, you open Duolingo. Why do people go along with Duolingo for years and years and years when those same people couldn't sit in a language class for even 6 months? It's because the app is fun. And that's what we have to do in school. We have to make education fun. If the school does it, that's excellent. But otherwise, at home also, like, do some science experiments with kids. If you tell them, like, we're going to do Archimedes' principle in the bathtub, they are way more likely to be curious about that than if you said, this is what the Archimedes' principle is. Now you memorize it and now you write it out word by word. Because, like, I don't even blame kids. I don't want to do that.
It's a lot to think about. I think we should get back to the foundation now.
Yes. It's good diversion.
it was a nice 10 minutes. So, personally, what is the most rewarding thing about the foundation? Like, it must feel good to do good for the community. It must feel like special. I'm doing something good with my life, with my time.
It does.
Yeah.
That's definitely a very big part of what makes me feel good about the foundation. But what is the best thing about the foundation is seeing everybody else come together. Because that's something I did not expect at all. One of the first few things we did as part of the foundation was a huge cycle rally. So we cycled to every single village in the Panchkula and Kalka Vidhan Sabha constituencies. And we would talk about the environment, and we planted trees in every village. And we sort of had the villagers adopt a tree, and so that they would look after it and take care of it. And we started out with a small group, and every day the group of cyclists just grew and grew and grew and grew and grew. And these were not even people that we had, we were calling every day. We were like people were just, they would see things on social media, and they would be like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. Like, I'll get some exercise, I'll go to some villages, I'll help out, and it gives everybody a good feeling to, contribute to that. And same with the villages that we went to. Even though this was not a political exercise, because I belong to a political family, everything we do is seen as a political exercise. So it started out with just Congress people supporting us and our family well-wishers supporting us, but eventually you could see people from across party lines who would be there at the events, who, even people who would not necessarily vote for you, but they would see that, this guy is coming in, this group of people are not talking about the elections, they're not talking about subsidies or whatever, they're just coming in here telling the kids about why we need to look after our planet, and they're planting some fruit trees. And that for me was a really special feeling. And one of my favorite memories is 3 or 4 years after we had done this cycle rally, someone came to my house with a basket full of fruits, and he said, this is from the tree that you had planted during the cycle rally, and we've still looked after it, and now it's, it's actually flowered for them. This has given fruit for the first time. And I think that's already, you forget sometimes that you can do things that leave an impression that's lasting longer than you had thought it would. And then the trees that we had planted, hopefully, a lot of them will outlive me and outlive everybody who was there when they were planted. And it's the same. I said I started this in the memory of my grandfather, right? In our house, we have mango trees, we have fruit trees, guava trees that he had planted and that are still there today and flowering and reminding us of him. And I think that's the perfect example of why anybody should volunteer or give their time as well, right? Because it's a selfless act. You are doing something for future generations. You might never get the credit. They might even not know who's done it, but all the things that we enjoy today are also because somebody in the past worked for them, and somebody in the past, developed the technology, set up the systems that our society operates on today, struggled for the freedom that we enjoy today. And for me, this is, the best thing. That obviously, like, what we are doing is not on the scale of what the great people in the past have done, but at least I feel that in my own way, I am helping in a small way in doing something selfless.
So, any future plans for the foundation? I believe you were mentioning something about the 3rd of June.
We have the blood camp coming up, of course. But there's also a scholarship sort of expansion that we are working on. So that's something that's pretty exciting. And we're looking to bring on more partners now as well, like working more with external organizations. Because so far it's just been in-house operation, and it's just been us doing whatever we can. So even for the blood drive, we've looked at 2 other partners who can come along and expand the awareness and the footprint of everything that we're working on.
Well, a lot to look forward to in the blood drive. I'll be there. So that was Sidharth, the founder of Chaudhary Bhajan Lal Foundation, doing a lot of good for the society. Thank you, Sidharth, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.